And to the last person,
the press conference of the Progressive Youth Alliance. The Progressive Youth Alliance is an alliance made up of the ANC Youth League, the South African Students' Congress, the Congress of South African Students, and the Young Communist League of South Africa. Today we have leaders from various national structures of the PYA. We have the DSG, I'll start on my right. We have the Deputy Secretary General of SASCO, Comrade Vezi, on the far end. We have Comrade Noneba from the ANC Youth League. We have Comrade Butanani from SASCO. On my left, we have Tini Kontini, the National Secretary of YCF, and Comrade Joy Maimela, the coordinator of the entity of the ANC Youth League. Comrade Noneba will read the statement on behalf of the PYA. Upon a conclusion, we'll then take questions from our friends in the media. Comrade Noneba.
Good afternoon. We are here today to launch a program that we have identified that we will champion as young people as we enter Youth Month. The Progressive Youth Alliance has taken stock of the plight of youth in South Africa and have come to the conclusion that the fundamental challenges lie within the structure of our economy, which remains untransformed. Young people will continue to bear the brunt of poverty, unemployment, and inequality unless we radically transform the superstructure of the economy. The Progressive Youth Alliance, which comprises of youth structures of the Mass Democratic Movement, will on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, the 1st of June 2021, lead a march of young people against the neoliberal austerity measures imposed by the National Treasury, which is an economic injustice against the collective demand for jobs, economic prosperity, and free education in our lifetime. Youth participation in the economy cannot be overemphasized, and its government to take bold decisions which will secure the future of our country through empowering young people and protecting the economically marginalized against the brutality of market fundamentalism and capitalism. It is high time that we mobilize all South Africa's youth and progressive forces to demand jobs and an equal share of the wealth from their country. The dominance of international finance institutions has perpetuated the sustained economic oppression of our people through the imposition of austerity measures by the National Treasury. This has resulted in the advancements of interests of big businesses and corporations who are benefiting at the expense and exclusion of the historically disadvantaged. As young people, we are here today to demand that our government puts people before profit while in constant fight against corporate capture of the state. Undoubtedly, the National Treasury has always behaved like a super ministry dictating the economic national agenda, contrary to that of progressive forces. One particular minister called Tito Mboweni has purposed the institution to isolate the working class youth and presents that Africa's economically marginalized population as a scapegoat for the capitalist crisis of international finance institutions. The International Monetary Fund has already announced in November 2019 that it had a fundamental understanding and agreement with the National Treasury to cut public wages and withdraw funding from critical state-owned enterprises way before institutions could butcher the youth of this country through cutting funding for education, skills development, and public wages. This institution has placed the South African youth at a position to choose between the Freedom Charter and the IMF conditions, even though it has already taken a decision to install conditions of the IMF on our fiscus. Our program for economic freedom and free education in our lifetime is rooted in the objectives of the National Democratic Revolution, which is considered a direct route to socialism as a means of production in our lifetime. As means of production in our lifetime. We demand a comprehensive social security framework to mitigate the poverty and underdevelopment crisis of the youth in particular and the oppressed in general. We demand that government should implement the universal basic income grant on a permanent basis. As we embark on our mass mobilization protest to the National Treasury tomorrow, we will demand the following. 1, we want the full implementation of free quality education as promised by the ANC 14 years ago at the Bulugwane Conference in 2007. We demand the scrapping of all historical debt in institutions of higher learning. We demand the introduction of a wealth tax on the wealthy of this country. We demand increased funding for youth-owned businesses. We demand youth particularly targeting jobs, particularly targeting young people in this country. We demand the closing of the gender pay gaps and the payment of a minimum wage to EPWP workers and interns in government. And lastly, we demand that public servants and public representatives be retired at the age of 60 as per the retirement age of the country. We are taking this approach of mass mobilization because of our strong conviction that the betterment of the people of South Africa, that the betterment of the lives of the people of South Africa will not happen in boardrooms, but rather through some endless negotiations with capital. We are not divorcing the culture of engagement, yet material conditions demand the material conditions and the damage done by Tito Mboweni and his associates can no longer afford us any option besides to demand for his removal from government and for an end to austerity measures in government. This is the first of many mass rolling action the PYA will undertake in the month of June. Our other programs will include an access to higher education awareness campaign, the launch of an ID campaign, an unemployment graduate march, labor in youth sector symposium, a youth month rally, and various commemorations of our fallen youth combatants. We are therefore calling on the youth of our country, the only active structure in our society, who are agents of economic freedom as guided by the National Democratic Revolution, to rally behind the banner of the Progressive Youth Alliance as we embark on this month-long program, championing the interests of the marginalized youth of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Meba. I am the national spokesperson of the Young Communist League. We are now going to invite individual PYA components to give their message of solidarity, not really a message of solidarity because this is a PYA program, but is to add to the already given statement that was delivered by Comrade Nonweba, and to also affirm that this is indeed a PYA program, a joint program of independent PYA organs. And I don't know, where do we start? I think we're now going to start with Comrade Butanani, and then followed by Comrade Dinikontini. And in the meantime, we would like to ask those joining us in various platforms to send through their questions. And immediately after Comrade Diniko addresses, we would then come here and ensure that also your questions would be addressed in this briefing. Comrade Butanani.
Thank you. I think ours is the South African Students' Congress has always been the issue of that we need more mass rolling actions and a concerted effort to ensure that we fight against the backdoor introduction of austerity measures, the budget cuts in all departments, the high level of retrenchments which are happening across departments and SOEs, the policy position which seemingly the Department of Finance is introducing. And of course, we have had some pickets and protests both in Parliament, also in Pretoria, to express our frustration against these austerity measures which are frustrating not only students but society at large, as we understand the high level of unemployment that is there, and the continuation of retrenchment, which is now, for instance, so seen today that what Dinel has done. So I think ours simple is to call on our members to join the march, to participate in the march, but of course we would adhere to the conditions and regulations by government. in protecting and saving lives. But we wish that that people join us. I think that is my part. Thank you.
Thanks, SG. Just before we allow the National Secretary of the Young Community League to also address the briefing, we would just love to address two issues. Number one is to recognize that COSATU Young Workers is here with us, joining us via Zoom, and that we would also want to apologize. It's not as if COSAS is not here with us. The Secretary or the Acting Secretary General was just here with us now, Comrade Kwena, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, he had to leave. They also asked both COSATU Young Workers and COSAS that we also announce that they are part of us and that they would have loved to join the briefing, but due to different circumstances that they face, they could not be here, and but they will be their presence will be registered tomorrow at the march, and that is where they will be delivering their message. Thank you.
No, thank you, spokesperson, and greetings to everyone. I think indeed ours is just to affirm that this is the first of many actions that are coming to follow. We must appreciate that there was a lull of the progressive youth voice generally for quite some time. And indeed, here we are as part of consolidating the unity of all the progressive forces in the country. But it's for us to say we've done much in the boardrooms. Now it's high time that we take the struggles to the ground. And indeed, what would be happening tomorrow, it just shows that now we have a zeal, will be continuing with many of the actions that we are still going to take forth and pursue the struggle of young people, because the reality is that with the challenges that we are faced with our economic situation in the country, it's young people that feels the brunt. When you check at the level of retrenchments that it's happening, whether it's in the public sector, in the private sector, young people are the most affected. When you check within access of higher education and what, it's the young people that needs to do, but it does not again assist us when our comrades graduate, our youth graduates, but you are still faced with high level of unemployment. And these are some of the issues that we are saying we are going to take them forward and make sure that there's proper jobs. We don't use even this issue of the EPWPs and CWP interventing problems as a poverty alleviation programs, but want to see where there's even a minimum wage within all the sectors. The other issues that will be negotiated in the boardrooms. Ours, we are calling for a clear national minimum wage across the sectors, in particular, even within these intervening jobs like EPWPs and the CWPs. But again, obviously, some of the questions that could have came even outside this, it's as if probably the march is targeted to one individual minister within the cabinet. But if you check all the points that are being raised, they cut across many departments. And hence, as we continue to take forward our campaigns, we will indeed visit some of these departments that there are issues that has to be addressed with. But immediately we believe that at the center of everything is the national treasure. And it becomes worse when you get an arrogant system or department that historically has always been given powers as if it's a prime ministry department. But then when you get an extraordinary deployee at the helm of that problematic department, it becomes worse. And indeed, that's why as fast as we're taking this youth month, we're saying we will start there where the center of crisis is. But that does not mean that we're not coming very close to other ministers. They must just be ready to welcome us as the PYA who are coming very close. No thanks.
We will go to Comrade Joy of the Youth League.
Thank you very much. Also taking cue from Uno Balawe YCL to really acknowledge and send a message to young people in this country that we appreciate the response and the interactions that they have registered to us as the PYA since the announcement that we were going to have a march, and that we have also noted majority of the issues that they said they wanted us to include in our memorandum tomorrow. And one of those issues, young people were saying, there's various national treasury regulations and circulars that act as red flags for youth-owned enterprises to do business with the government. So all these issues that young people have raised with us, we will incorporate them in our memorandum, the comprehensive memorandum tomorrow, because this much really is the start of one of many. We are impatient. We are tired as young people with the current situation where young people are really on the outskirts of the economy of this country. And we are saying as a generation that we've got a mission. We've got a mission to fulfill, and we'll do that through mass mobilization, because really speaking in corridors, the rhetoric of deployees of this organization is really tiring, and we are tired of it, and we will demonstrate that tomorrow. I think also we should also appreciate and say to young people all over the country, members of the PYA, all of them, that we acknowledge that they would want to be part of the march tomorrow. But due to the regulation, the COVID-19 regulation, we are calling on all of them to pledge and show solidarity to the march through perhaps social media platforms where they can share a hashtag, the Youth Month March by the PYA, and join us and retweet and reshare the march. We really, really wish that they would demonstrate that they are with us in spirit. And of course, to acknowledge all other structures, there is various youth formations. There is the ANC Women's League, a Young Women Desk that has pledged support that will be joining us. There's various young people, various youth formations that have pledged that they will be in support of the march of the PYA tomorrow. So we really are, and we cannot wait to demonstrate and to register the youth voice tomorrow as we launch the month of legends, the month of young people. Thank you very much.
We will be taking questions. I think we'll start with our virtual platform. There was one question that I saw from Thabo Hlongwane. Thabo asks, if Tito leaves, who do you suggest be the next finance minister? Who would take that?
Part of what we'll be launching this Youth Month is our campaign to ensure that young people occupy strategic positions in the state, including the Muchapalen campaign, where we want to see young people being on the polls as we go to local government elections. We've also told the ANC that as the ANC will be going to, nominations of BGMs, serving in councils, etc., we will want to see the inclusion of young people. We do not understand why the National Treasury is treated like some special department that cannot be led by young people. So as part of, in fact, what we'll be delivering tomorrow is to say that we want to see the retirement of old people whom are above the age of 60 as per the retirement age of this country. So the National Treasury is part of the departments that we are saying that there are many very capable young people who can lead those departments within the ranks of the mass democratic movement. So we would want to see a replacement of that particular comrade with a capable, credible young person in that particular position. Thank you very much.
while I sanitize, we'd like to acknowledge the General Secretary of Nahau, who has joined us on our virtual platform. Question is from Jabulo Masang. How is the PYA planning on addressing the issue of internships, which are regarded as jobs in South Africa? Balance. Comment those there. Are there any other questions? Balance will come in. Okay.
Thank you very much. Firstly, the question is actually spot on. We've seen a tendency of government departments recycling interns. So you enter into an internship program that is supposed to give you work exposure and give you experience. And after 12 months, instead of having an exit point where you actually are absorbed into employment, you are then recycled into another internship. So our demand was saying, firstly, that internships should earn the minimum wage. That's the first thing that was saying. But also we're saying there should be a framework, an exit, a pathway strategy that is developed by government and its departments to absorb young people who gain work exposure through internships. So we're no longer going to accept an internship that does not have an exit strategy. When any other department develops an internship program and presents it, we're going to demand that they also present their plan on how they are going to absorb these young people into employment positions. We will no longer accept a situation where it is just an internship. Afterwards, young people go back to the streets, they go back to where they were before they even entered that internship. So that will be one of our demands that will be submitted to the Treasury tomorrow. Thank you.
Covered it, no? Are there no other questions on our virtual platform?
One question from political editor of the if the issue is putting strategic positions to a 60 and above, surely the entire cabinet must then come and
Is there a question?
It's a comment. I think it's a comment from ENCA. So that our comrades inside can hear it. The Faith from ENCA says, I want to ask this one. If the issue is people in strategic positions who are 60 and above, surely the entire cabinet must then come under fire. Yes. That then becomes the question. What the question would then be, what then is the view on the entire cabinet? If the issue then is issue of the people who are over 60. I think Tinigo can come in. Thank you.
No, thanks. I think actually the question is just emphasizing what we have said. Because when we say amongst the issues is to say those that are above 60 as public servants, because I think maybe we need to clarify, because our parliament and all our local government spheres are still public service spaces. This is not a private space, but even within the private sector itself, we are saying it's high time that indeed we live what we do, because we are the ones that becomes lawmakers in parliament. But why then are we exempted from the same laws that we are putting to say public servants at the age of 60, they need to retire? So hence we say each and every person, if it happens that the entire cabinet then is constituted by the above 60 people, indeed they will be under fire. And that's why we're saying even this March is the first March, but this is not the end. We're still going to visit many departments to raise critical issues where there are challenges that we need to do. So in terms of age, any person, if if as the president, who necessarily is no longer a member of the National Assembly, as a head of state, this is what we are saying to all the key sectors, even in municipalities, in the provincial governments. We are saying that let us start to live what we say. We can't continue to be exempted from the same laws that we are doing as the public. Therefore, then everyone who is above 60, you must just know that we're coming very closer to you as the PYA. And this may be seen as a populist stance, but our interest remains young people who are here to represent young people who can no longer afford a situation where young people are used as jukeboxes for the elders and speak on behalf of the elders. It is in that manner that we are raising this point. No, thanks.
Thank you very much. To add on that, this tendency of having boards that are constituted by 65-year-olds, all boards in this country, majority of members of those boards are 60 and above. Also, we're saying it must come to an end. Comrades must go, must retire. They must go play with their grandchildren. We actually thank them very much for their service. But this is time where young people shape a country or shape a future that they're going to be in. We are unambiguous and we're unapologetic on this one. 60 years old and 65-year-olds must resign. They must go home. They must allow young people, they must allow those who are still within the age, the productive age, to go and do the work. On that one, we are very clear. If the entire cabinet is 60 and above, yes, it's true. We believe that in the next elections, they must not even avail themselves. They must just go home. We thank them for their service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Joy. We had one question from News 24. Pule from News 24. Pule asked, have there been engagements with the Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni? 2, what are the time frames of the demands? So those are the 2 questions that have come in. Sasco will take that one. And then if the comrades want to take it further back to them. All right, Comrade Butanan.
Thank you. Yes, there has been engagement with the Minister of Finance. And also, we have went to Picket when he went to deliver his midterm budget speech. We went as far as actually even discussing the issue of the austerity measures with the top leadership of the ANC. So there has been engagement around the measures which are being implemented, which we're not heavy about. But of course, we've also expressed both in the meeting and public his attitude and his arrogance, which is not of progressive nature. So there has been, and we have agreed that we're giving him 30 days to voluntarily resign. If not, then we will have to take it to the president again, take it further. Thank you.
There's a question that has been asked, and which is, why have we singled out one person in cabinet, and why are we marching to the National Treasury? And that is precisely because we view the National Treasury as having over the years been a very problematic department. The Secretary of the YCL has said that, in fact, in our statement as well, we say that the National Treasury has always behaved like a super ministry, where it wants to dictate what must happen when and how, precisely because they are the ones that draw up the budget. That budget that gets drawn up is a budget that comes from our taxes, by the way. And we have every right to say how we want that budget to be appropriated. And the fact that irrespective of our needs and our demands as young people, there's going to be a decision to cut funding on education. There's going to be a decision to cut funding on skills development. There's going to be a decision to not pay workers what they ought to be paid. That's precisely why we are taking this particular march to the National Treasury. We've also said that the attitude of the political head in the National Treasury is one that makes that department even more problematic, over and above how currently problematic it is. You literally have someone who completely and continuously defines themselves outside and even above that of the head of state. You find someone who's continuously going on Twitter. The last time there was a tweet that said that I don't agree with local government elections. When the head of state had announced a date for local government elections, that particular individual went on social media and said that I don't think it should happen. So we are saying that the institution is problematic and the political head of the institution actually makes the problem even worse. So in order for us to deal with the problematic nature of the institution, we start with the political head as a means towards dealing with the problem that is called National Treasury in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the convener of the Youth League. I believe this is the last questions that we have that have come through on our virtual platforms. Siyabonga Masumbu. How is the PYA going to address the issue of graduates being required to have a car and speak Afrikaans fluently when applying for jobs? That's one. How is the PYA going to address the issue of experience when applying for jobs? Those are two questions. I think those are the questions that are remaining now. We'll wrap up after this. All right. Can I just set
No, thanks. One thing we must firstly maybe appreciate, it was when our government took a decision to
call on young people to go to interviews. Even if you're not called, you must go to an interview and go there and say, I'm a young person, I've applied, I qualify. Can I be given an opportunity to also present myself on all issues that speak to young people during this youth month? And we'll come back when we close the youth month to say, as a PYA, this is what we found out and this is how we're going to go forward in advocating for these issues. Thank you very much.
No last bite. I think with that, it will come to an end to the press briefing. I think we've responded to all questions that have been fielded to us. We'll give an opportunity as we wrap up and close. The DSG of SARS will simply outline our program for tomorrow. One last time so that everyone is abreast of how we'll be moving tomorrow. With that, then we will then close the press briefing. Comrade Vresi, Mabuja.
Well, thanks very much, Comrade Pants. As Comrade Pants has said, Comrades, I'm here to outline our program tomorrow. We are meeting at 11 at Speakers Park, where all of us will be gathered. And where we're going, Comrades, we're going to 40 Church Square. I think one thing that I must also confirm, Comrades, is that what President announced yesterday in terms of COVID-19 regulations, as the PYA, we are going to ensure that we adhere to those COVID-19 regulations. Masks will be there, sanitizer will be there, social distancing will also observe it, Comrades. But the march is continuing as planned. Another thing, we want to appreciate all of you who was able to come here and support this media briefing. Media houses, we appreciate your time and everybody. We are going to meet you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay.